Afternoon, Facebook. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I just realised that sun's right in the way there. Hang on. So today I'm going to talk about donkey votes. Before I do that, though, I just want to thank Jackson, who asked me about this actually a couple of weeks ago now. Thought it would be a good topic for us to go through, and I think he's right, obviously, because I'm doing it. Would have done it a while ago, except for my son deciding to be sick and go to hospital. Other than that, we probably would have done this a couple of weeks ago, because for the majority of the rest of the election campaign, which is only less than 2 weeks ago now, I would like to talk more about parties, policies and candidates, not so much about the ins and outs of the electoral system and how it works. But today I do want to talk about donkey votes, because they do matter and they count, ironically. They count in both terms of votes towards somebody or a candidate or a party, but they also count in why they're important to understand, and what you could do to make sure yours isn't a donkey vote. So as the name suggests, it's not necessarily a clever vote. It's usually just because people are lazy. So first, what is it? So a donkey vote on the House of Representatives, which is the green ballot paper, the way we have to vote is you have to number 1 through whatever how many candidates there are in the order that you prefer that they are voted for. So if there are 4 candidates, you'd vote 1, 2, 3, 4, giving the first vote to the one you like the most, giving the 4th vote to the one you like the least, and 2 and 3 in the middle somewhere. Now, what a lot of people do is they go, because we have a compulsory voting system, they go to the ballot box, they get their green ballot, and they start at the top, and they just vote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., down to the bottom. So for not anyone in particular, but just to get the vote done. Why does this matter? Well, it matters because at the last federal election, there were 44 seats that were won by a margin of less than 5%. Now, keep that in mind when you also consider that the Electoral Commission have said that consistently over all elections since we've started them in this country, that the donkey vote is about 5%. So every election there are about 5% of people who literally tick their name off, get the green ballot paper, go in, start at the top, number it 1 through whatever down to the bottom, and whoever's lucky enough to get the first position on the ballot paper gets the vote. So how does that work? So the ballot paper is a bit like a horse race and how they draw the barriers. They literally it's supposed to be randomly pick people to be ordered 1 through whatever. So the person at the top of each ballot is basically a random position. The idea being there's no preferential treatment, because we know that if you're at the top of the ballot, you're going to get votes just by accident. And so that's how that's set. So when you think about the fact that there are 151 seats in the election, and 44 of them at the last election were decided by a margin of less than 5%, and that 5% of the population will vote donkey, that's a lot of seats that are potentially being decided by people who don't care, who literally just want to mark their name off the roll, not get a fine, have no interest at all in who wins, and don't have a clue who they're voting for. This is important. This is why compulsory voting, one of the many reasons why compulsory voting is a bad idea. If you don't want to vote, you should have the right to just not go and vote. And those of us who care and look into the election a little bit more, pay attention to the candidates, pay attention to the policies, and have at least some idea of what we're voting for. If we want to vote, we should. But when you say every person over the age of 18, with the exception of a few people in prison, for example, have to go and vote, this is the result. Now, think about that for a second. If this is a close election, and one side is better than the other for the country, which arguably is true at any election, the wrong side could get up purely because 5% of the population don't care and do a donkey vote. Now, a donkey vote's a little bit different to just marking your name off and throwing your vote away. So if you don't vote at all, if you draw pictures on your ballot paper, they're not counted. They're just simply not counted at all. Donkey votes still get counted. that is to get counted to people who maybe otherwise wouldn't get your vote. Now, if you look at the last election too, one of the reasons why compulsory voting is again a problem, this is a little bit off topic of donkey votes. The Liberal Democrats, I think it was, at the last federal election won a Senate seat because they drew barrier 1 in the Senate ballot paper, and they were at, I think, position 1. Or very early on in the ballot paper, and people simply looked at the name and thought they were the Liberal Party, so they voted for them. They literally won a seat in the Senate based on the name, which was deceptive because it wasn't part of the Liberal Party at all. Anyway, that's a slight aside to what I want to talk about. So I guess since we do have a compulsory voting system, what I'm saying to you and asking from you is go and have a little, either don't vote, like go mark your name off and then walk straight back out, which you're legally allowed to do. You don't actually have to write anything on the ballot paper. You don't have to put the ballot paper in the thing. You just have to mark your name off, take the pieces of paper, write nothing on them. You can just throw them straight back into the bin, empty, the ballot paper box empty. So you don't have to write anything. That's probably a better option if you truly don't care than simply writing 1 through to whatever it happens to be on that ballot paper so that you've, in inverted commas, voted. That would be a better option than voting whoever was lucky enough to get the top of the ballot, who could be the worst person in the seat to win. Anyway, that's my thoughts on donkey votes and why they matter. Be interested to hear from you if you have any thoughts on that or any other election topic. As I said, I do want to focus now for the rest of this election campaign more on candidates, parties and policies, not so much the way the system works. I will talk about both Labor and Liberal a lot from now on, because obviously they're the two parties that are, excuse me, the car drives past, they're the two parties who are really fighting for the power of the country at the moment. The Labor had their national campaign launch today. The Liberal Party will have theirs next weekend. So there will be a flurry of policies from here on in. All right, guys, talk to you tomorrow.